folks, Brian Havens here with a workshop update. So, where have I been? What have I been up to? Well, in a word, turning. After finishing a couple of flatwood projects, the Asian cabinet and the Dorothy cabinet, I was really itching to get back to one of my favorite things in woodworking, which is turning. And for the longest time, something I hadn't been wanting to do for a long time but hadn't gotten to, is do some hollowing. So that's what I did. I splurged and got myself one of those big huge hollowing tools. I've been calling it the big gun. And made myself several vases. So yeah, this one is spalted birch. I got some made out of one of my favorites, pearwood, and some Claro walnut. Now, if you do decide you want to do some hollowing, and you're going to go ahead and splurge on a tool, they're not cheap, but they're well worth the money if you're going to do a lot of hollowing. But if you decide you're going to go ahead and spend the money on something, I would recommend go ahead and splurge for the laser. It makes things much easier, especially if you don't have a lot of experience doing hollowing. These vases are all about 1/4 of an inch thick or thinner. In fact, this vase, it's 13 inches tall, but it weighs only about 10 ounces, so it's nice and light. And that laser allows you to get really close to the edge without having to guess. In the amount of time you're going to put into doing the hollowing, you really don't want to blow through it at the very end and waste all that time. So yeah, hollowing, a lot of fun. Now, what goes along with hollowing is there's been a lot of turners that have been doing using carbide tools, not just for hollowing but for other things too. And so, but those carbide tools can get really expensive, and even the replacement cutters will cost you 18-20 bucks a pop. So I went looking around, probably spent a lot more trying to find out where to buy them cheaper than if I just bought them. But you guys are the benefactor now, because I'm going to put on my website, I finally found the source. If you want to make your own carbide tools, you have to buy 5 of them, but it come out to like $5-6 bucks a piece as opposed to 18. Worth getting a set of 5 or so, and they have 3 different sizes at this one place. I'll put a link, or I'll put a reference to where you can get these. So yeah, if you want to make your own carbide tools, these are the ones to get. It turned out the problem, I have a neighbor who's it's actually a machinist, and I showed him some of the other ones I bought that didn't work, and he said, yeah, it has to do with the coating and all this other stuff. So just go straight to the place, and these are actually being sold by this one online retailer specifically as the carbide bits that people have been requesting. So yeah. So what else has been going on in my little turning world? I've been getting a lot of new species that I haven't, new trees or just logs of different species that I haven't worked with before. So that's been kind of fun. I got this was a mystery wood for a long time. It took me a while to figure out what it was. It turns out I'm almost certain that it is spalted apple. Really beautiful. This is going to be a nice a winged crotch bowl. It's pretty dry. I'm going to let it dry a little bit longer before I get to it. And it was so beautiful that I went ahead and I cored out the middle, so I have several smaller conventional bowls. And I did finish one of the smallest bowls already, and it's just gorgeous stuff. Nice browns and a few black lines in there too. Some really nice score on that one. Only got 2 logs, but I managed to get about 10 bowls out of it by the time I finished coring it out. This next wood was kind of a surprise. I didn't know what it was at first. I thought it was bay laurel because I'm here in California. Turned out not to be. This has several different common names. One is water gum. That's what I first discovered. But it's also called Kanuka, which is kind of a nicer sounding name for an exotic, which sounds more exotic. But this was a rather small tree, wasn't that large, so I almost passed it up. But I'm glad I didn't, because it turns out that the whole tree, all the way up and down, it's hard to see on the rough, but it's curly throughout. And so all the more reason to go with that Kanuka. I call it curly Kanuka. It sounds really kind of fun. So I got about 10 blanks of that plus a vase. Another wing bowl out of that, so this should be some really nice stuff. I was really curly from the base all the way up to the top of the trunk. So what else has been going on? I've also been doing I've been doing a lot of experiments with various things. This is a bowl I did. It's half sapwood, half heartwood. It combines some hand tool skills, some flatwood hand tool skills with some turning. That was kind of neat. And I've also been experimenting a lot with, I guess you could call it composite turning, where you take one piece of wood, you turn it one way, in this case a spindle, and then you remount it in a different orientation, and you maybe scoop out the bowl. So you get a nice little scoop out of a solid piece of wood. Different ways of doing composite turnings like that. Now, so am I ever going to get back to doing flatwood? Well, yeah, probably around, I'll probably, with the holidays and everything coming up, it's really hard to take on a big flatwood project. So I'll probably do a little more turning until around the first of the year. I have a couple of ideas for my next flatwood projects. And probably kick that off around the first of the year. But until then, I'm just going to have some fun at the lathe, maybe make some presents, other things. Now, speaking of the holidays and turning, there's a really neat project you can do if you have kids, especially if you have kids, is I've been making Christmas ornaments and letting the kids paint them, depending on their skill level. If they've got some experience turning, you can let them do the turning too. Or if their skills are okay, you can have them start it up, and you can have them do some of the turning and clean it up for them. Or if they're not experienced at all, you can just turn them, paint them, and they can take and finish putting the paint on them, decorate them however they want to. So I got snowmen and some Christmas trees and some other just icicle kind of stuff. And these are meant to be a really quick project. So what I've been using to color these is just colored Sharpie markers, and in some cases with the white, I'll go ahead and I'll primer them with some pigmented shellac, white pigmented shellac. So that's the shop update. Now, if you're interested in doing some of these ornaments, if you have some kids or some nephews and nieces, and you want to try doing stuff, I'm gonna head over to the lathe and make some more of these. I can show you how I'm making these. These are a nice, fun, quick project for the holidays to keep the kids entertained. So yeah, let's head on over to the lathe. Now, my choice of wood for this project, since I'm going to be coloring and painting it, is poplar. This is a particular blonde poplar that was sold to me as Arctic poplar. I used this. There was some curly pieces I used on my country hall seat. And this is left over for years. Any poplar will do. It's a good choice because it paints well. It's relatively soft and inexpensive. Now, I have this, both the tailstock and the chuck on the side, because later on, to finish up the end of the ornament, I'm going to pull back the tailstock. But in the meantime, I want it in there for support. So I'm going to go ahead and rough out part of this black. And this is 12 inches long. So the idea is I can take an ornament out of here, and when I finish that one, I can go on and make several, just like you would if you were doing knobs. So let's go ahead and get at least this section of it. Now this tailstock is going to protrude into the end a little bit, leave a little dimple, so I want to peel away a bit right there to remind me that I don't want to use that. Need to stay back a little bit from the end. And I think I'm going to make a Christmas tree this time. So I'm going to start with the outer profile. Now, if you're doing this project with kids, depending if they have any turning experience or not, or in their age, you can have them, do part of the turning, do all the turning if they're really good at it. I had my 8-year-old son try to make a snowman using just a point tool. It was fairly safe. And then after he made his mess, I just went up and cleaned it up a little bit for him. Now, if you're used to turning hardwoods, you might find you have to be a little bit delicate because poplar is a little soft, and you can really cut into it pretty quickly as compared to other hardwoods. Okay, it's the basic outline, and I'm going to mark out my bows just by making some V-cuts. And then from here I'm just going to ferret it right into those V-grooves, and that gives me my Christmas tree look. Now I'm using a skew because kind of a skew geek, or skewed geek, however you want to approach. But you can use any tool you're comfortable with. Most people will would use a gouge on something like this. But now I'll do a little sanding before I pull back the tailstock, so I still got a little bit of support. We'll sand part of this. Now since this is going to be painted or colored with markers, don't get too carried away with the sanding. Poplar is pretty soft, so it sands pretty quickly, and you know, it's just a painted project. So I'm just going to go. This is 240, so I get a pretty good finish off of the skew straight away, and that's probably all I'm going to use. So now I need to finish up this end, and I'm going to try to get rid of a little bit more stock before I pull back the. Go ahead and pull that back. Very careful because I'm way off. Very little support right now. Just trying to clean up this end. Go. Now, on this top right here, I'm going to be adding a little eyelet. That's what I'm going to hang it from. And because that's a really steep point, it's going to be hard to drill into there. So what I'm going to do, actually first I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it up with a little sandpaper. And I'm going to form a little dimple on the end. It's going to make it a little bit easier to get that drill to go into the right place. Just a little crevice, dimple. And I'm going to take the right size, the correct size drill bit for that pilot, for that eye hook, whatever you want to call that thing. I forgot what those are called. And right into the dimple it goes, in and out. That's it for that. Clean up a little bit more. Now this next part is a lot of fun. The kids are going to love to do this. I'm simply going to take different color Sharpie markers. I'm just going to hold it right to this ornament as it spins around. Now the key here is these sharpers don't like heat. So you're going to get the lathe going just about as slow as it will go. The slower the better. Because I try to do a little bit faster, and you can ruin these markers pretty quickly. I also have some of the base colors for Christmas, like the red and the green. I got some fatter Sharpie markers. It makes it a little bit quicker work for your base. And I'm simply going to just hold the marker right to the wood. I'm saving these spaces because I'm going to make them silver. It looks pretty neat when you do that. Pulling the pen on here and drawing. Looks a little bit like garland right there. That still worked out, came out over the green. And a little brown for the stump. And we'll just part it off. There we go. Now there's a little piece on the bottom, but I've been debating, I've been coloring them brown, but I was thinking, you know, if you cut a tree, it pretty much looks like wood, so I'll probably just leave that alone. That's what it looks like when you cut into a log. The outside looks brown, and the inside may just be a poplar. Well, it's not a poplar tree, it's a pine tree. There you go. That's it. Now you can you can let this dry for a little while, and they can come back, and if they have other colors, they can put little dots on there and decorate it with ornaments, or you can use paints, whatever you got, whatever you feel like using, and then just work in. Add the eyelet hole, whatever this thing is called. I have to look up what this is called. In fact, I usually put it in ahead of time. It gives them something to hold on to while they decorate it. There you go. Now you can get quite a variety of these markers, these Sharpie markers. I even got silver and gold, black of course, and the usual Christmas colors. Now there's one color though, and arguably the most important color for Christmas, which is white. I haven't been able to find a pen that does a good job of doing white by putting it directly onto the lathe. So what I've been doing in this instance is I've been primering them. I've been painting them ahead of. I take them off. I finish them as wood, and then I'll paint them. And what I'll use, what I find works pretty good. This stuff's sold as primer. What it is essentially, it comes in a spray can, is white pigmented shellac. It gives a nice little surface. It gives a pretty good surface that you can afterwards, after it dries, come back with the Sharpie markers and you can decorate them. You can see a little snowman using the different colors to decorate it. It also, the primer will come out usually a little bit rough, which actually kind of nice. It'll sort of resemble more of the texture of snow. So yeah. So it's basically two ways of doing it. Either you do, if you're not using white, just use the Sharpie markers directly onto the lathe, and then afterwards you can continue to decorate it by hand, or paint them white with the white pigmented shellac, and then decorate them with the Sharpie markers afterwards. Makes a nice little white canvas to work with. Well, that's all I have for now. I hope that if you do turning, if you have nephews and nieces, or if you have kids of your own, that you'll get a chance to do some of these Christmas ornaments. It's a fun way to spend time with the kids at the holidays, and also get some woodworking, some turning in at the same time. Now I'm also working on some more, if you want to do more advanced kind of ornaments. I've been working on these urchin ornaments, a little bit more difficult. If you like doing fine spindle work, these are a real challenge, but I'm still working out the process myself. This is the first time I've made them. But they can be a really elegant gift for somebody before Christmas. But we'll have to see how my holiday schedule goes. So until next time, I'm Brian Havens, and thanks for watching.